Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. And so tonight I'm going to carry on with the Corsair, the 1/48 scale one, the underside of which you can see here. And as you can probably see, I've anointed it with a coat of glossy sea blue, which was MRP paint. There's some touching up to do and various things in various areas. And as you can see, the tyres need to be painted tyre black. I've got some of that, so I can do that at another stage, but I'm going to do a couple of things here. First of all, going to put on the tail wheel with its arrestor hook. Now you can model the arrestor hook down, but I haven't done so, and as you can remember, I put in a what do they call it, towing shackle, or the tie down shackle. That's it, tie down shackle. So I put one of those in, and I flatter myself to think that it doesn't look ramshackle, which would not be great, but there you go. So you're going to have a quick look at that there, but it's not really all that interesting. So let's go back out to that. So I'll put that on, and we'll put these tail wheel doors on as well. And then what I will then do is return to the main stream of this evening's symposium, which is to look at wear on an aircraft like this, and how one might achieve this. And I've had some thoughts on this, and then we can take a look at that. So as you can see, I can put this on its back, because the aerial here that's down there is not too long for me to break it off. So I'll get to with gluing that leg in, and that we can do fairly quickly. In fact, actually, before I do that, just need to take a quick look at this and just rub some of this paint off here, so that it will glue in properly. Otherwise it won't, and that would be irritating, because it would drop out at some unexpected moment. So we can do that. Just pull that off there. As you can see, it all comes off fairly easily. It's not really an issue. So that's that bit done. Have a quick look up inside of here as well. That bit's okay there, and I'll just see if I can just pull out that there, so that I've got an area to bond onto there. Don't want to open that up too much, so I'm not going to I'll use a thinner blade than that. I think that might be easier. Someone can tell me what it's a number 10A blade, this, and you Swan Morton experts out there would probably say, yeah, Zinners, that's a number 10A you've got there. You need that to get into that small gap. So good for you. I always stand corrected wherever possible, because I think that's the right thing to do. So we'll just turn that out there. That should be all right. So what we can then do, I'm just going to put some white cap cement on this, because I think, for my money, I think this gives the strongest bond, and I don't need to be particularly precise, but this stuff dries less quickly than extra thin, so it gives me a chance to get that stuck in there. So just take a hold of that and carefully place that and sight it, and there we go. So what we need to make certain is that the hook here is centrally located. It gives you an opportunity to see the fact that there's some steel on there, so I can leave that there like that now, and I'll zero back out again. We can do the same with this. So there's going to need to be some touching in with this as well, to be honest with you. So we need to pull some paint out of here too. And just on, yes, that is correct. I am doing the right side. Look a bit stupid if it wasn't, eh? And there we go with that. The same with the other one. Feel free to buzz through the dull bits if you want to. There'll be some more interesting things to see in just a little bit. Seem to have done that very well. Ah, there we go, that's better. I know perhaps you tune in to see me cut my fingers off or something with my ineptitude with tools and such like, but there we go. Not today, it would seem. So what we can then do with this is we put that in that way round. Now these things locate onto little pin lugs there. I'm going to do the same thing with this cement and a pair of tweezers, which I have here. Now we need them. So what we'll do is a little dab of, shall we call it extra thick, shall we? That might be the thing to call it, eh? And then take a hold of that. Just bring that round. See if we can sight that properly into its position, or drop it on the deck. Let's try that again, shall we? That didn't work particularly as we wanted. So let's try that one more time. There we go, that one's in. Oh, and that one's not quite in. Well, this is proving trickier than I would think. It's not going as well as I would want. There we go, that's gone in there. That's in now. Right, we'll do the other one and then we can start to look at getting these two balanced up properly so that they look right. So we'll try that. Having learnt from the first one, let's see if we can get it right for the second, shall we? See if we can. Yes, okay. I feel the swear box coming. Oh, curses! I feel the swear box coming on. There we go. Got that in now. Yeah, they look about right there. So let's make sure that's all centered up. So now we can just leave that to sort itself out, and that will take a. I'm going to leave it overnight, I suspect, but I'm going to have to be careful when I start manipulating the model from up above, which I shall do in a second. Quick word on this, all this has been done. I've used a double-sided mask, so I've painted this a grey on the inside, which when I sat inside the cockpit of one of these things, one of the Fleet Air Arm ones, it was it looked to be about that colour. So that's all good there. I'm also going to paint in black and white stripes all around here, which is what the Fleet Air Arm cockpits had in the day. So the main thrust of this was about how one puts on weathering to these, or wear in fact, particularly rather less than weathering. And you'll recall my excellent manual from this, from the most excellent David Morris, who works at the Fleet Air Arm Museum. If you're thinking of building a Fleet Air Arm Corsair, do get this book. It's an absolute must for anybody who wants to build an anatomically accurate Fleet Air Arm Corsair from 1943, 44, 45 type of thing. So I thoroughly recommend this, but what it does do is give us an opportunity to look at things like the weathering at the top of the wing tops and so on. And I've been given some thought on how we might best replicate this sort of stuff here, and whether we might perhaps want to put more in here and so on around here, and how we might do this. Now, as you can see, if we just go right in on this, you will be able to see up here there are ridge marks here. That's going to be quite difficult to put in because there are no real ridge marks in the model itself. Now, on the larger scale model there may be, but certainly worthwhile having a look at. So I gave some thought to this, and I thought to myself, right, I can paint in the wear, or I can dry brush the wear in that way, or maybe I could do something else. And I thought, well, I'll try for something else. Now, before I go on, I know I'm probably reinventing the wheel here, and that's fine. You guys out there in modelling land will be able to tell me whether I'm reinventing the wheel or not, and the answer is probably yes, I am. See, I just bent that earlier on today whilst I was buggering about. That's just moved in some little bit, but what I thought was, I can paint. You can paint and then chip using chipping fluid, or chicken fluid as I'm going to call it, because I think that's hilarious. Possibly, you be the judge, and that will give you an effect. I wasn't over impressed with the effect that you can get from that, although it's a good enough one, to be honest with you. And I thought, well, how else could we do it? Well, what we could do is we could do it naturally. So the original metal finish was aluminium here. Then it was covered in a zinc chromate primer, so it's yellow. And that was inside the aircraft in certain areas as well. And then above that, there's a glossy sea blue. So I used an MRP glossy sea blue. And what I've actually done underneath that is primed it with Mr. Surfacer primer. I then went over the top of that with Alclad bare metal aluminium, and I gave a coat of that in areas where you might expect to see a coat of that. In other words, not here on these areas, because as you can see, if we zero into this, those are ridged. That's where you had canvas covered sections, because in the Second World War, Goodyear and Chance Vought were trying to lower the use of aluminium because it was scarce. So they put canvas where they could. So you've got canvas here and here. These are wooden ailerons covered in canvas. So are these. So you can see that all around there. And aluminium was used where it could be used. So what I did, as I said, I painted these 4 coats: primer, metal colour, Alclad, zinc chromate paint, and then the MRP paint over the top, and started to look at how I might best be able to deal with the wear markings, so of pilots and mechanics and fitters and goodness only knows what, trogging about the place and attempting to do their stuff. And what I came up with was this stuff. So this is sponge, and this is 2000 grit sanding sponge. And what I've done with this is quite simply, you rub on this surface very gently but persistently, and what you do is you end up exposing the the paint underneath the top coat. So if I do this now, I'm going to just give this a bit of a rub here. What I'm going to do is I'll zero in on this so that you can sort of see what I'm up to. So what we can see is this panel line joint here, and as you can see, I've rubbed into this, and this has started to create wear. And if we go a bit further down here, you can see the wear has come through the top coat of paint, through the zinc chromate, and then down into the aluminium colour. So once you get there, my best advice to you is stop then, because otherwise it's grey primer under there, and I don't really want to see that. It's a similar colour to the zinc, to the aluminium, but not that similar. So what we'll do is we'll just give this a quick, rub down and see if we can make something happen. And we're not pressing hard at all. If you press hard, you'll go through all the coats in seconds. And you need to be a bit patient with this. So this is what I'm doing here. So we'll see if we can make this happen. And what you'll find is that this stuff gets clogged up, and if you unclog it, then it suddenly starts to be able to take the paint off much more quickly. So you again have to be doubly careful on this. And as you can see, you're beginning to take the coat off. You need to take that off. And if we want to sort of do a more specific area, we can go and use a corner there. And then we can go into that corner, and again we're applying really little pressure, not much at all. And here we go. This thing starts to come down here, and you start to put in wear, but it's wear in the most natural way, because we're simulating, booted feet rubbing on this. Presumably they didn't use hobnails on these aircraft, I'm going to say. Even though in my Navy days we used to wear hobnails on the parade ground, certainly not on aircraft, I can tell you that. That would not have been allowed. So what we've done very quickly is we've started to create a warm paint area. Now, if I persist in this area, what I'm going to do is show through to the aluminium, and I may wish to do that. So we'll just, again, this is the very gentlest of pressure. Because stuff starts to happen pretty bloody quickly, actually. And let's see how far we can go here. Let's zero right in and see what's happening here. So it's still yellow. Still got the zinc chromate yellow. So what we can then just do is keep rubbing nice and gently. If you want to accelerate the process, go to a fresh area of the 2000 grit sandpaper, but I'm going to take a patient approach on this and just go gently and calmly and see what we can do. And what we clue up with, hopefully, is that focused in there? Yes, it has. If we keep plodding away at it, we end up with a worn line. But I think that, I'm not going to go any further with that just right now, but I think that looks terribly realistic. And just off the paint, you still retain that slightly shiny finish. And on the aluminium section, again, you get the same thing. And so we can do it in areas where, for example, we've got the ammunition boxes here, 6 of them. And if I go right in on that, and you can sort of see, if I just turn the light, you can see a little bit of the aluminium shining through there. It's taken me about sort of 10 or 15 minutes to do that, and they weren't all evenly worn, so I've left them in that way like that, and do the same on the other side there. Again, you can see a bit more of the aluminium. Now, you could conceivably use a stick with this, but I would suggest being really quite careful with this, because what you'll do is just take the whole bloody layer of paint off everything. And then we can start to think, you doing the same sort of technique about going into little tiny details like in here. So let's look at this area here to begin with. You can see I've had a little bit of a go at this, and these are the areas here where, because of the lack of any sort of climbing step, because the FG1As, and remember KD431 was an FG1A, didn't have a climbing step. That was the F4U1Ds, which came later, that had these. So what they did was they used to put the boot up on here, on these little areas here, and what we've done is just with a little piece of sandpaper like this, let's see if we can show you that, just a little, and you create a bit of a blade with this, and very, very gently just rub down that way like that, and you can then start to simulate these areas of wear, because this is a pilot boot as they go and climb up here towards the front of the aircraft here, and in this section just here, let's point this out, there is a shutting grab handle there, so you put your paw in there and you can haul yourself into the aircraft from there. And that's how that done. So I'm simulating some wear around this area as well. Also further forward to here. So this is where the jury struts go. Let's zero out and show you that a little bit, so you can see a little bit of that. So the jury strut sits in that little dot there, and I'm trying to think where it comes from now. It's around this area somewhere, and allows the aircraft to be stayed, or the wings to be stayed. And so there you are. And I think this effect, you be the judge of course, I think this effect is for my money anyway, more convincing than chipping, because the scale of it is so tiny, it's so small, and it allows us to be able to get into those areas where, and we can simulate a fairly new aircraft that's just beginning to show some wear, as it were. You know, maybe there's not so much wear on the front. I'll be closing those up and painting them black inside and so on in a while, and on the undercarriage as well here in these legs here, there wouldn't have been much wear in here that we would see, maybe a little tiny bit, you know, and you can dry brush that in. If you're doing it subtly, there would be you know, not much difference. And then if we look into the ammunition cartridge exit ports here, there would be something here, and you can also rub in something there, which would be, you know, you can simulate smoke and so on, which you can use airbrushing smoke and things like that. And so what we can do is we can, I think, achieve a really quite nice effect, more or less all over the aircraft. And you can see there, of course, down the front, so there are 4 cowlings, or the cowling is fit into 4 sections, so 1, 2, 3 and 4, and they were all numbered, so they had to go back in the right way. They could go in the wrong way, but they had to be put back in the right way. And so you can simulate that, so you can then have quite realistic wear markings in this aircraft as you model it. And I'm using this, as you'll know, as a test bench for a larger scale Corsair at some stage in the not too far distant future. And so this is how it's going so far. My next plan on this will be to airbrush roundels in, and I'm reasonably far through making the roundels, so that I can then paint the roundel detail in on top, underneath and either side. And if I can make Royal Navy KD431, then I will, but I think it's going to be a bit beyond me in terms of lettering, but I can always have a go, but I think, you know, you be the judge. The weathering, I think, is subtle enough, and I would suppose that I could retain a modicum of the gloss finish by using a semi-gloss varnish like the Tamiya one. I can't remember what the X number is, but you'll be able to tell me, I've no doubt. In that way, we can then add a wash under, you know, over the top of it. And remember, it's a Royal Navy aircraft, so you wouldn't have airfield dust or anything like that, because it's flying off an aircraft carrier. And they were generally cleaner, so you can get away with not so much in the way of actual weathering and so on, weathering effects. But there you are. So that's my fist at wear markings on an FG1A. and do tell me what you think in the comments, whether you think I could go a bit further with this or not. And I will be continuing to have a little go on this as I crack along. And thank you very much indeed for watching this little video tonight, and hope to catch up with you at some stage again over the next few days or so. Thanks to everybody who is subscribing, by the way. I know I always put this at the end, and I should perhaps put a note in the comments before the video to direct people to the end, but I keep thinking we've hit peak Zinzan and there won't be any more, and more people keep subscribing, which is quite amazing really. So thank you very much for doing so, and all the best to everybody, and keep doing your modelling, and maybe something that I did today helped you. If it did, please let me know. If it didn't, then again please let me know, and I'll see what I can do to improve. So thanks very much everyone, take care, see you on the next one, bye for now.